We're going to hear about the implementation of digital or e-health interventions for farmers in Germany, but from two very different perspectives. For the first presentation, I'm pleased to welcome Johanna Freund. Johanna is a psychologist and a clinical researcher with a strong interest in the implementation and evaluation of internet and tele-based solutions for the prevention of depression. She gained experience in various healthcare fields as a research assistant at the chair of epidemiology and preventive medicine, and as a freelancer at an institute for occupational health management. After studying psychology at the University of Regensburg in Germany and the Charles University Prague in the Czech Republic, Johanna has been working as a research assistant at the Department of Clinical Psychology and Psychotherapy at the Friedrich Alexander University Erlangen-Nuremberg in Germany in the e-mental health working group since 2018. And for the second presentation, I'm very pleased to welcome Dr. Elena Heber. She's a founding member of the company HelloBetter, and Elena's aim is to implement evidence-based digital mental health interventions in routine healthcare. In a role as Vice President for Content and Research, she is responsible for intervention, development, and evaluation. Elena has completed her PhD in digital mental health and worked as a postdoc research fellow at Leuphana University in Lüneburg in Germany and at the University of Southampton in the UK. So a very warm welcome to both Johanna and Elena. Over to you.
Yeah, thank you for the introduction, Kim. I'm very glad to be here and to present our current research project on the implementation of internet and tele-based interventions for farmers. In the following, I will focus on qualitative findings about barriers and facilitators in the implementation from a health worker's perspective. A brief outline of the background to the study. Farmers represent an occupational group that is particularly exposed to many risk factors for depression and other mental disorders. Risk factors include, among others, high work-related stress, poor harvest and weather, and financial problems. Farmers also mainly live in rural areas with limited mental health care and long waiting times for on-site psychotherapy in Germany. So one possible solution could be to implement internet and tele-based interventions to deal with these challenges. This is exactly what happens in the German pilot project With Us in Balance, a national depression prevention program for farmers, forest owners, and gardeners. The German social insurance company for agriculture, forestry, and horticulture, SVLFG, implements guided internet interventions and are personalized tele-based coaching. These interventions are implemented as an extension to existing on-site preventive services. The project is scientifically evaluated in parallel running sub-studies with randomized controlled trials and 2 implementation studies. So which kind of interventions are implemented? The online health trainings are provided by the Goethe Institute. The trainings and their adaptation to the target group will be the topic of the next Flash Talk, so I won't go into more detail here. The personalized tele-based coaching is provided by IVP networks and deals with individual stress factors of the participants, for example, family problems or work-related stress. The used therapeutic methods depend on the background of the coach, and the coaching can be just distributed flexible over 3 to 6 months with sessions of 25 or 50 minutes. Different recruitment channels are used to address the insured members. The preventive services are advertised through various public relation activities. In addition, the insured members are informed in person or by telephone by the field workers. The field workers mainly advise on prevention of accidents. As part of this pilot project, the field workers should also provide information on preventive services for depression prevention. Interested individuals are then forwarded to the call center where they receive further information on the services, and they can choose between on-site services and the newly implemented internet and tele-based interventions. We conducted focus groups, which means guided group discussions with field workers in order to identify barriers and facilitators during the consultations. In total, 80 focus groups were carried out with 86 field workers in the period from 2017 to 2019. We developed a semi-structured interview guide based on the theoretical domains framework. Due to technical problems during the recording, only 17 focus groups could be evaluated using a qualitative content analysis. The agreement rate between the two independent rater was high, indicated by Cohn's kappa of 0.76. Overall, 25 barriers could be identified in the analysis. Of these, 14 barriers could be assigned to the levels of the field workers. I will explain the first 3 barriers in more detail in the following and show which measures were derived to improve the implementation at the social insurance company. The most frequent mentioned barrier in 76% of all focus groups was about recognizing and addressing of mental health issues, which was perceived as difficult and hindering during the consultations. Based on this finding, the social insurance company introduced a new training part for field workers to practice how to address stressful topics. In 71% of the focus groups, a lack of time during the consultation was mentioned because many topics have to be covered within a short period of time. So based on this barrier, a business card for the call center was developed, which can be handed over to the insured member during the consultation, and the insured member receives then further information at the call center. In 65% of the focus groups, a lack of feedback was identified as a barrier. The field workers stated that they do not receive any feedback about the success of the referral, and they are not informed about the general acceptance of the mental health campaign. So 2 measures could be derived from this barrier. In the documentation sheet of the field worker, they can now state whether they would like to be informed about the success of the referral, and additionally a regular newsletter was introduced with news about the pilot project. On the level of the insured members, 11 barriers could be identified. In the following, I will go into more detail on negative attitude and stigmatization. In 59% of the focus groups, it was mentioned that the insured members often have a negative attitude towards prevention offers and reject them. Additionally, in 41% of the focus groups, stigmatization of mental health issues could be identified as a barrier during the consultations. Mental health issues are often seen as weak or represent a taboo topic. And in order to counteract both barriers, numerous public relation activities were or are still carried out at the SVLFG in order to sensitize the target group and to increase the awareness of mental health issues. One example here is the creation of an image film about the online health trainings. A farmer talks about his mental health problems. He suffered from high workload, bureaucracy, and other stressors. And when he heard of the mental health campaign, he decided to seek help and to participate at the online training, which helped him to cope better with the stress. In addition to the barriers, 22 facilitators could be identified. Only the most frequent ones are shown on the slide. On the level of field workers, it was stated, for example, that they perceive their own competence to consult and to advise on the preventive services. And they also have a positive feeling when they do this. On the level of the insured members, a benefit for the well-being of the insurance was perceived, for example. And on the level of the preventive services, they stated a high need for prevention among this target group. So diverse factors were mentioned here on the different levels that facilitate the consultation on the preventive services. Yeah, to sum it up, the focus groups were a good way to take into account the opinion of the field workers, who represent an important stakeholder group in this implementation. As just shown, based on the findings, many activities for the implementation of internet and tele-based interventions could be derived and also have already been implemented at the social insurance company. So the results had a direct impact in practice. If the implementation of the internet and tele-based intervention succeeds, this could help to improve mental health care among farmers, forest owners, and gardeners. Yeah, that was a brief overview about the results of the focus groups. If you have any questions, I'm happy to answer them by email. Thanks a lot for your attention. And as the moderator said before, the next speaker in this session is Dr. Elena Heber, VP Content and Research from HelloBetter. Welcome to Elena.
Thank you very much, Johanna. In my talk today, I will be reflecting on the adaptation and implementation process of this specific ICBT service of Get On HelloBetter in German farmers from a provider's perspective. According to the cliche, farmers lead healthy lives. So they're always in touch with nature. They spend their working life away from the hustle and bustle, and what is there possibly to be stressed or concerned about, right? Many people are actually surprised when they hear that farmers have an above average risk of developing a mental health disorder and also a higher risk of suicide compared to the general population. But when we look at the challenges they face in their daily lives, we find that they suffer a multitude of issues. So there's a general lack of recognition for their profession in society. They constantly work overtime. They have this enormous economic pressure. And also on the personal side, they experience a particularly high responsibility towards their family and their farm, and often also care for their elderly relatives who live with them in the same household often. What makes the situation particularly precarious is that farmers tend to be very reluctant to seek professional help, let alone in a timely manner. And if they do, it can often be difficult due to their remote location. So our aim at HelloBetter is, well, we believe that everyone should have access to evidence-based and also affordable mental health care. So our aim is to provide individuals with digital mental health interventions to improve their mental well-being on their own accord. And in this process, our clients are accompanied by psychologists and psychotherapists. Our ICBT courses in this project for farmers included 7 relevant areas, namely depression, stress, sleep, chronic pain, panic, alcohol, and diabetes and depression. And the client journey was set up in a way that clients started the offer with getting an individual code they received from the call center from the health insurance company. They registered on our platform, and then they filled out an individual screening in all of these 7 areas. And then they decide together with their e-coach in a phone call which course is most suitable for them, depending on their level of burden. They then started the online course, completed weekly online modules, and had the choice of either written or telephone feedback from their e-coach after every session. And after the course has finished, they were able to have monthly phone calls with their e-coach to sustain the effects of the online course for up to 12 months. And in the adaptation of our standard courses, we focused on these 7 ICBT courses, which were specifically adapted to the green professions. Here you can see the entire framework on how we adapted the offer, mapped out according to an implementation research framework. But instead of going into all details, I would like to point out some central elements. So the decision to modify was made by the health insurance company, who commissioned Get on HelloBetter to conduct this with the aims of improving the fit and also the satisfaction of the offer in the target group. And we also aimed at increasing the uptake and reach of the offer. One central part was the adaptation of the content of all these 7 courses. And our e-coaches also received special training in dealing with the specific problems that farmers have. The offer was implemented via the local field workers, as we've just heard, advertisement in the membership magazine and on the website of the health insurance company. The nature of the content modifications was done by conducting interviews with the individual farmers and members of the green professions. We visited them in their natural environment on the farm and talked to them. We also used a lot of literature research to make these adaptations. And the interventions were tailored to the agricultural setting by adapting the words and sentences, videos, audios, pictures that suited the target group. We used analogies from their daily lives. And also one important part was including example characters with very similar problems to theirs. We also included some additional content. So for example, modules on appreciation, dealing with unsolvable problems, as well as a module on worrying, rumination, just all topics that were identified as being of central importance to the target group. All of the core elements of the interventions, however, were preserved. Let's have a look if we achieved our goals in adapting the offer. So did the adaptation improve the fit and the satisfaction? This is a clear yes. We believe it did. The clients were very satisfied, and the health insurance company as well. I have to say we went to great lengths in course adaptations, which went as far as researching the name of a particularly popular new crops that farmers have started to plant, or certain EU regulations they need to adhere to. Just very much details that made them feel understood and in the right place, because they felt we know what we are talking about. Moreover, clients could recognize themselves in the examples and adaptations that we made in the courses. Let's have a look at our second goal. Did the adaptation increase uptake and reach of the offer? The answer is a resounding yes and no. Whilst we can say that in principle, the target group now has easier access to a mental health service, which is also well accepted by the clients who do make use of it. There were no beneficial effects on adherence or effectiveness, at least compared to other offers. Also, importantly, the uptake was extremely low. We initially set out to provide the courses to thousands of individuals. Yeah, that did not happen. So we only reached a few hundred of participants. So compared to other implementation projects that were not specifically adapted to the target group, at least for the intervention part, this is a very small number. Obviously, we do not know how it would have worked out if these adaptations would not have been done. My suspicion is that it would not have been as satisfactory to the clients, as they are a very particular target group. What are our lessons learned from this? Well, we can state that we were able to successfully adapt our ICBT courses in a way that our clients were satisfied. Particularly in this target group, it was crucial as the farmers perceive themselves as being very special, and they are also used to it from the health insurance company to have very targeted offers. At the same time, speaking from a provider's perspective, a lot of effort has gone into this, more than we had initially expected. So this was our first adaptation project, and this is a learning that we will definitely take on board for the future. We also learned that these adaptations alone, however, did not make up for the individual barriers that we have also just heard about. So, for example, stigmatization or negative attitude towards mental health. So a focus on increasing the acceptance of digital mental health seems so important in successful implementation. In this project, the client journey is quite complicated from our point of view. It is interrupted by the call center. So the health insurance company expressed the wish to have this telephone center in the focus. So clients essentially have to phone them up and tell them about their problems, and then they will be provided with an access code via email or post. But this also means that they cannot immediately start with a course, which we also know is a huge barrier. So overall, we think it does not really make use of the full potential on what is possible nowadays. So we are a bit restricted when it comes to, for example, paid online marketing campaigns or a fully digitized client journey with a landing page as a direct entry point, something that we believe is essential to increase uptake and reach. So it is a bit disappointing from our perspective when it comes to uptake and reach that despite having these amazingly adapted courses now, only a few hundred people have used them so far, and that we currently don't have the proper means to reach those clients. In conclusion to this, I would say when it comes to uptake and reach, a smooth referral service is more important than the course adaptation alone. Whilst this was successful, we would in the future focus more on providing a well-rounded offer surrounding the courses themselves to make, to make the most of the available resources. This brings me to the end of my presentation. Thank you very much for the opportunity to speak in this round, and feel free to reach out to me via LinkedIn or via email in case you have any questions.
Thank you very much, Johanna and Elena, for your very interesting insights and specific knowledge here from concrete settings.